It's time to stitch the Candy Corn Quilt Shop on our Twilight Boo-levard bench pillow. The Candy Corn Quilt Shop is on page 18. I have all of my fabrics backed with interfacing. I have my batting, and from the embellishment kit I have the white felt, the black glitter HTV, the mylar, and vinyl. Now the directions call for clear vinyl, and that does come in the embellishment kit. I am using this mylar infused vinyl. And I also have the pennants that I have cut out. Now this needs to be stitched and trimmed and ready to go when we start this block. These will be stitched on during the construction of this block, and so these need to be ready to go. Let's stitch out the Candy Corn Quilt Shop. I've opened my USB and I am going to open my combined files folder. I have merged the background quilting and the embroidery file in Embellishment software and have made all of the alignment adjustments and deleted the steps that I will not stitch. However, that is totally optional, and you can bring in the background quilting and then the embroidery file. You would need to move that file down according to the directions, and then there are some steps to skip. I'll go ahead and open my folder, and I'm going to bring in the Cute Quilt Shop. I'll hit set, and you'll notice I have already moved my little quilt shop down so that the bottom of the little house is just a hair above the batting placement. I am going to choose embroidery, and I need to go back to my 9.5 by 9.5 inch hoop. I have the 4x4 because that is what I just used to stitch out all those cute 3D elements. So I am going to go back to my 9x9. I'll select OK, and then I'm going to go to layout and rotate and move this all the way down so that I am at the very bottom and I have all of this above attached to my strip of muslin. I'll select OK and then go to my minus plus needle, and I can start stitching. These will be the same steps. I will stitch the placement of the batting. I'm going to place my batting that has been cut to size. I will place my fabric, run the tack down, and then stitch the background quilting. The next several steps are going to be the applique pieces. There's the body of the house, the roof, the little dormers that will be the glitter, the black glitter HTV, the windows on those little dormers, the larger window on the house, and the door. And I am going to use black thread for all of those steps. For the placement and tack down of all of this fabric, the thread color doesn't matter, but all of the thread that does matter that comes between some of these steps will be black. So that will just be easy, and I won't have to change anything back and forth. Even for this yellow fabric for the windows, that will be covered in a satin stitch, so I can go ahead and tack those down with the black. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch up to that point where all of those applique pieces are done, and then we will do our last applique piece, which will be with the felt. I'm getting ready to do the placement line for these two little windows that go on top of the black glitter. And again, I have one of those odd stitches that I need to forward to get to the correct spot. Here's my little green plus sign, and you can see that's way down at the corner of the HTV. I am stitching around where that yellow will be, and that's not supposed to be there. In fact, you might be able to see up in this little screen, there's a huge stitch. So I'm going to use my +1 needle until it jumps to where it needs to actually start stitching. So now you can see that it started way down by the corner of this window and how far it really needs to be to start. That's probably a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. That shouldn't be there. All right, so I'm going to stitch out the placement. It's going to be in black. It's going to be hard to see, but I am going to go ahead and stitch it to make sure that I can place my little yellow fabric correctly. Now for these appliques, I did not need to take my hoop out each time and trim or leave the hoop in and trim. None of these overlapped as far as the stitching. Now the fabric overlapped, but it didn't interfere with the stitching. So now I can just take my hoop out one time and trim around all of these. After stitching the little pole and the placement for the sign, I'm placing my felt, and I did put a black bobbin in per the directions. It's going to do the tack down of the felt, and then it's going to do all of the detail for the sign. So there's some scroll detail and several different colors of wording. So let's get the sign stitched. After stitching that cute little sign, it's going to stitch the little candy corn flowers. And these are the same as our first 2 blocks. And so this uses the mylar. It will stitch the stem, and then a placement line. I will place the mylar and tape it down, and then it's going to stitch the little candy corns with the white, orange, and yellow. And then it will stitch the outline, and I will tear the mylar away. Then after those little flowers are done, it's going to do some satin stitching. It will do the house satin stitching, the windows, and we'll go to that spot because then we'll be using the vinyl. So let's get those cute flowers stitched. So I just got done cutting one of those big weird stitches on this flower, and another huge one happened on the yellow that's starting. So I'm going to cut and it's interesting that these are there. So anyways, if I pull this back, I can see, and I can't even see it on my screen, and I just heard it, and you can tell by the way it jumps and moves, and you can see this huge, look at that huge stitch. All right, so I'm going to use my back needle until it jumps, and then use my forward to jump it back to where it needs to go, because I don't know how fast I caught it. See, that was quite a few. So you can see it started way down here, and then it had that huge long stitch. I'm ready to place the vinyl for the large window. I'm just going to take my vinyl that has the Mylar specs in it and lay it over, and I'm just going to hold it. It's going to stitch it down, and then I will do the same for the top windows. We have a few steps left. It's going to do some satin stitching now for the window sills, both the top and the large window, and then it's going to do the porch railing. It's going to stitch around the door. It's going to add a little window on the door that is just embroidery, as well as a cute little pinwheel, it looks like. That's cute for the little quilt shop. And then it's going to stitch the foundation of the house and some of the eyelets that will be for the fairy lights, and there will be outer and inner, and they will be different colors. Then it's going to do some more details from the roof fence up at the top. That will make it super cute. Then it will do the roof satin outline, which is around the squiggly little fabric, the outline for the dormers, and then we'll work on the pennants. So let's run through these and get all those cute little details that will make this house so cute. So I'm getting ready to stitch the satin outlining for the door, and I am changing it. It is supposed to be white. I'm going to do the light purple. I thought that would look fun. But again, I have a spot where it's starting way down at the corner of the railing. And these two don't overlap. They don't interact at all. And so I stopped my machine. And if you watch this little arrow, I'm going to use my plus needle, and then you'll watch it jump over to the satin stitching. And it wasn't a lot, but there would be a jump stitch between the railing and the door that just would have to be cut, and it doesn't need to be there. All right, so I'm going to continue, and again, I'm using a different color than the directions. So I only have one step left, and that is to put those little 3D pennants on. And I stitched these little placement lines. They're really hard to see. I stitched them in purple so that I could see them a little bit better. There is one right here that's hard to see. The directions say black, but I thought the black would get kind of obscured in this fabric. But I'll get a close-up of that when I'm placing them so you can see them. There's just those 5 little placement lines. So let me tell you that this was a fun block. It's cute. I did have some stitch out issues. And so let me show you a couple of things. So other than those really weird long stitches that I had quite a few in this, I had some problems with my satin stitching. So if you look up by this window and kind of this window, they dip in, and that underlayment on this little piece didn't quite get covered. I mean, that's minimal, and if you look at this from a foot away or 2 feet away, and look at the whole thing, you might not notice that. I had an issue with kind of the same thing with the door. Now I love the door in the light purple. I am definitely happy that I did that instead of white. I think the white was just too much for the door, but you can see that this stitching that goes along this outside and then mostly on the inside of this is an underlayment that should not be showing. The satin stitches should have covered that. So that was an issue. This whole side, I actually didn't notice this. I only saw this little piece when I was looking at it like this in the hoop. You can see this little piece here, but I didn't know that this was as bad as it was. I probably would have tried to restitch that. I just noticed it right now when I pulled it out of the hoop that all of this down here is not covered at all. And it should look like this. That looks nice. Then I had a problem with this second banister. It didn't cover. In fact, there's like 3 layers. I tried this 3 times to see it, and this is the best it looked. The other ones showed much more purple, and so it kind of did the same thing right here. It started good at the bottom, and then as it went up, it kind of veered in, and there You know, my foot wasn't hitting anything because there was nothing to hit. This, you know, bottom foundation wasn't on yet, and so I tried to restitch that. So I'm not very happy with this whole section right here. I think what I might do, I haven't decided, you know, I have, again, in the scheme of things, if you just look at this on the wall, maybe the average person wouldn't really notice it, but I notice it. And I may try to find like a little Halloween pick at a craft store that's, you know, maybe got some candy or something that I can just glue or tack down somehow that would kind of, or, you know, kind of obscure this, maybe with greenery. I don't know. There's not really much I can do with the door. I could probably on this black fabric maybe take a Sharpie and cover up those few stitches, but I don't know. I'm just maybe going to call it a highlight. But overall, this was a really, I love this block. It's a really cute house. I love the candy corn. I love, again, the shimmery window. And the pennants will add a cute little 3D. So overall, it's a really fun block. But I did have more kind of issues than I did with the other blocks. Now, there are a few jump stitches up here that I'll cut, and we'll put the pennants on and this will be done. But it is a really cute block, and I really like this cute little pinwheel because it's a quilt shop, and that's of course a quilting a quilt block, and that's super cute. All right, so let's finish up the pennants and then we will be done with all of the main blocks for our quilt. So it's time to attach these little pennants so that we can stitch them down. Now, I stitched them in purple. I thought I could, you know, see them better because it says to stitch them in black, and I thought this would be dark. And the purple overall works well except for one because it's right on the purple. But you could probably even stitch these in white. They're going to be covered up. So here is a little, it's just a little line. There's one right here. There's one right here that goes right underneath the satin stitching, one right here and one right here. And so these pennants will just look like they're hanging. Now the way these are stitched are, they are put right side down, they're going to be tacked down and then flipped over. So there'll be like a fold at the top. So when we place these first, they need to be placed just over these little marks, right side down, with the little pennants pointing up. So here is a little mark right here, and I'm going to put it just past the little mark, and I think I'll tape that. It'd probably be wise to tape the actual bottom. I'm gonna think about that. So the directions show just taping the top. I'm going to put my machine on the slowest speed just to make sure that these don't get lifted. But it shows them just covering this little placement line. It's going to, I'm thinking, stitch back. It's going to jump back a little bit. So these are just to help line up. It's not going to be the same stitching line. So here is one right here, and I will just make sure that I cover it. If I were to do this again, I would probably do it in white so that you could see it better. I think there's one right here. And this little one right here. And I'm just placing it so that I can't see that little line. And we'll see how that works out. And there's one right here. Okay, so they should be right side down with the pennants facing up. All right, let's go see about tacking these down. I slowed my speed down, so let's see how these stitch. And that was weird. It started at the bottom and then did one of those weird jump stitch things. But see how it goes back from the edge, so that's good. That wasn't very centered. That one looked good. All right, so let's look at these. This did a locking stitch down here, and you can see that it jumped over. It probably doesn't need to be cut, but I'm going to cut it. That one looks okay. It's, you know, not perfect. This one looks okay. This one looks okay. This one is really off. That one looks okay, but let's see what they look like when we fold them down. Boy, that one didn't really stay. And they kind of twist, so I'm hoping that this next line, or this next little detail that stitches them down, and it will look like the rope that's tying them, will be correct. So this one is way off. Let me look at the picture to see if these two second ones in are kind of, so they kind of slant up just ever so slightly. So I am going to, this one is straight, so this one, I'm going to fix that one. Looks like it should be more like that. I'm going to try that. And this one, I think, should be, so it's, you can see it's slanted just a little bit. I think that looks good. But if I can just get them all tacked down and they're not perfect, I'll call that a success. All right, so the next step, I'm going to keep my machine at the lowest speed, and it's just going to do the little string to hold those down. In fact, what I think I'm going to do is just hold this down. If I press and hold, it will just go stitch by stitch. If I need to stop it, I have to let go and then hit stop again. Once you let go, it'll start to go, just continue to stitch. So if I need to stop, I'll have to let go and press it quickly. But I'm going to hold it down and see how this does. Okay, stopped it. I think this one is a little crooked, and I think it's supposed to be more straight. So I am going to, and this is that one that kind of tilted, maybe. I'm going to see about just getting that a little bit straighter. Okay, so I'm going to press and hold this again. You saw how slow it was going. This one I'm going to fix. I have a little bit of the underneath side showing. And that's the one that only caught part of that, so I'm hoping that I have overall, I'm going to call that success. These two on the ends, they were tilted a little bit higher. You can see that the stitching, you know, isn't quite even. This one got pulled up a little bit, but they're tacked down, and I think overall they look good. And it's Halloween. All right, so I'm going to take this off, and then this block is done, and we'll go take a look. So our cute candy corn quilt shop is done. I love it, even with the issues I had a few places with the satin stitching not covering. I think this is a super cute little block. So we've got the felt, we've got the cute little candy corn, we've got glitter, we've got the gold pennants, the fun vinyl on the windows. It's just a really cute block. I love it. All right, that is the last main block of our bench pillow. Now it's time to get stitching our borders.